Welcome back, everybody, as we get set for another busy week here on Track Talk. Oh, man. Sunland Derby weekend was filled with 6 stakes races last Sunday. It was packed as always. And with us right now is the longtime voice of Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino, not to mention the director of publicity himself. He is Eric Alwan. Eric, welcome back to Track Talk. And you talked about Stronghold last week. That was the horse to keep an eye on. You spoke very highly of this horse, and sure enough, lived up to its reputation and took home those 20 points in the Sunland Derby to highlight what was a Sunday filled with stakes races here at Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino.
It was a rather amazing day because we have such a small staff here at Sunland, and everyone has to do 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs and have volunteers on a day like that. That it was quite gratifying to see some 15,000 fans come out for it, and to have a horse like Stronghold come in from California, certainly no slouch. He was the real deal. That he came through. I don't think he beat a really tough field, but he did what he was supposed to do, and he got an 89 buyer for it. And I think more importantly than any of that stuff is that we made some new fans, and we did it in a big way. And all of the credit has got to go to Dustin A. Dix. This guy is a miracle worker. I mean, and Jackie Marks really pitched in a ton too, our marketing director. But Dustin knows the game. He knows the ticket. He knows how to get people out here, and with not all that much help. And it was amazing that it pulled off so well, because things were different this year. We started a lot earlier. Points were reduced by Churchill. The purse was reduced. So I was pretty shocked that it came off as well as it did. Mother Nature helped a lot. It was a sweet day. There wasn't a lot of wind and blusteriness, and I think the fans came out in bulk because it's the right fit right after the Super Bowl. Makes a ton of sense. I mean, this Dustin Dix, he's got a lot on the ball. He's got a big future. We're lucky to have him.
You mentioned Stronghold's 89 buyer figure.
Yeah.
Given the impressive finish, and regardless of the rest of the field, the 89 figure, it really sets up Stronghold well to race in another major stakes race or races between now and Derby Day, and still that opportunity to try to get into the biggest horse race of the year.
In my humble opinion, I saw enough. Yeah, he's legit to be in the field. He's good enough. He's just got to win one more, or be second or third in one of those 100-pointers. So I don't know where Philip D'Amato is going to take him. That's going to be very, very interesting. He's got a whole lot that he can choose from because he's got the entire month of March, but he's going to have to get something done in about 3 to 4 weeks. And he's going to have to earn another 20, 25 points. And I think he can do it. I do. I thought that maybe he would be a little distance challenged, that maybe a route no, I was wrong about that. He can handle it. And actually, Steve, he kind of played around in the stretch. He's still young and green. He could have won by more. And he's got the kind of speed that it takes to get yourself in the race. And Philip D'Amato is arguably one of the best trainers in Southern California. So we were lucky to get him. That was a good find. It saved the race, and there were many times where we had short fields throughout that series of stakes races that we were one horse away from just being too small a race to have it. And Philip D'Amato helped us a lot.
Like you talked about last week on our expanded preview for Track Talk, Lucky Jeremy was the early pace setter. And I guess if you had to look at a horse that was going to challenge Stronghold in that race, Lucky Jeremy was exactly that.
And he did. He showed you everything in his deck of cards. He dug in. He tried hard. He got challenged not once, not twice, but 3 times. And that third advance that Stronghold had was just too much. But Lucky Jeremy never really threw in the towel. A horse that you really got to watch out for next time. I don't know where it will be. Probably the Mind That Bird Derby that we have on closing weekend. I think it's on closing weekend. A lot of luck. He reversed the roles from Lucky Jeremy. He nodded him right out. Of course, Lucky Jeremy did a lot of the hard work, but a lot of luck was close too throughout the pace, and they took shots at each other. Nobody else was of any factor. It was a rather weak race for the Asmussen horse. He didn't really fire. It's a big day though for Asmussen. A huge day for Rosario. Joel Rosario nearly swept all 5 stakes.
Wow.
I mean, it was amazing. He won 4 in a row, and then the horse that he rode in the Derby just didn't have it. So it wasn't Rosario's fault. But I mean, this Rosario, what a treat it was for our fans to get to see we have great riders here. No bones about that. But this is a world-class rider. And you could tell. The ride he put on Recharge to win the Oaks was stellar. Recharge is this tiny little filly with a big heart that Asmussen trains, and she was able to withstand Candy Isle in a dramatic stretch trot.
I was going to ask you about that, Eric. We're talking to Eric Alwan right now, and we're recapping the busy weekend on Sunday for the Derby and all the other big stakes races. As far as the Oaks goes, that sounds like that was another race that lived up to the hype. A pretty exciting finish.
It was. There was another horse in the race that helped it actually fill, and I think that was the D'Amato horse, wasn't it? Big filly, Simply Enchanting. She was the Nyquist filly. A lot of the money went down on her. She broke on top, but after a couple of strides, this nimble Recharge, the daughter of Gunrunner, took the lead in the first turn, and really for all practical accounting of the race was won with that decisive early move, and it didn't take a lot out of Recharge. She took some other challenges, especially at the top of the lane when Candy Isle might have headed her, might have actually been on the lead for a stride or two, and then the two really got close to each other, and Recharge fought her off. The D'Amato horse, I think, was third. She just really never made an impact in that race. She tried, but Simply Enchanting just wasn't up to it. I think that Candy Isle has every right to go to Kentucky, but like our winner of the Derby, she's going to have to find more points. So I don't know what Todd wants to do with Candy Isle. Maybe, Todd's done well at Keeneland before. Maybe he'll try to find a Kentucky Oaks prep for Candy Isle, because as the distances get longer, Candy Isle is going to get stronger. It's also very interesting what Steve Asmussen would do with Recharge. There's still a lot of meat left at Oaklawn Park. Maybe they would both try for another filly stakes for 3-year-old fillies.
You mentioned Asmussen. Let's talk about the day he had.
Superb. What a great trainer. Did you know that he was a jockey in his youth? And he grew up around here. His lovely mom, Marilyn, and Keith Asmussen were pillars in our racing game back in the 60s and 70s. Marilyn Asmussen, his mom, was the first female trainer to win a major quarter stakes with Vespero back in the prime time era of Rodoso Downs. She won the Kansas. But when Steve was young, just like his dad, Keith, just like his brother, Cash, they tried to ride. So coming back to this area, I think, means a lot to Steve. And it always has. And that's why he's always had a touchstone for Sunland and coming back to New Mexico. And luckily enough, we're good enough now for him because we have the purse structure, that can attract the kind of horses that he has. And he won the Bill Thomas Memorial with a really classy sprinter called Jackson Traveler. That horse was impeccable. I think got close to the track record. Then he comes back and wins the Oaks with Recharge, and that was a close decision by about a neck. And we thought he was going to win, again, maybe in the Sunland Derby, but it was so nice to see him in the winner's circle. And Tom Dawson had a really great interview with him, and Tom's known him for much of Tom's life, and Tom's in his 70s, a real historian of racing. So it was special. It was special on many fronts that day, that we were able to pull it off, that a lot of people came. 15,440 is close to the record. It's not the record. You know, back in our heyday, we had 19,000, I think, come out to see Firing Line win back in 2015. But there's just been so much catching up and bandaging and from COVID that we have been playing catch up for the last 3 or 4 years.
How was the handle?
Pretty darn good. Not a record, mind you, but we got the local community to punch in $300,000 just on their own, just here. You know, that was awesome. But about 2.8 million came in off track. So it's one of our all-time great handles, maybe in the top 10. I think Dustin was very, very pleased that we were able to do that, because remember, Steve, when you have short fields, you can't do the same kind of handle that you can with 10. It's just a pure mathematics game, especially with pick fours, pick fives, trifectas, exactas. They become more complex. Of course, I hit the pick four and pick five like everybody else did, but it only paid $25 for 50 cents. So, you know, you can't get a lot of leverage out of that, but people are happy. People are happy. You know, I'm a purist. I'm a killer. I'm bloodthirsty. You know, our fans aren't that way yet. You know, they want to have a good time. So for that model, we were successful. You know, but we desperately need more horses. We need more to be able to keep this on. But I think if there were any doubts about the Sunland Derby, those have been thrown away, because we did too good and management was happy, certainly with the way it turned out. And this new date, I think it's going to work fabulously well. But this race deserves more than 20 points to the winner. That's just a crock. Yeah. It's just an absolute crock. I mean, you know, we've thrown good horses that are running the Derby, and we've won the Derby. So I don't get it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I almost feel like if you have a horse that wins the Derby, you should be
grandfathered in forever.
For life.
Yeah. But we're not, you know.
I got you.
It's kind of like the minors used to be in college basketball, even like when they wouldn't get into the tournament, but they should have.
Yep.
Sort of like that, you know, in basketball. Yeah.
Let's talk about the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Got live racing all weekend. No major stakes races to talk about.
Yeah,
but we've got live racing coming up.
Live racing. And I think it's going to be the last little catch your breath moment before the real power starts. There's only 28 days of racing left. And that's not counting today, but it's going to be a great crescendo in March and then April with all of those big money races that we have, like the West Texas Derby. I heard from Dustin that the West Texas Futurity, which has always been a prestigious race, it's our fabulous open quarter horse race that kind of opens the door to Rio Doce Downs. We may have 19 trials for that.
Holy smokes.
Which on my memory would be a record. So for whatever reason, there's a whole lot of interest in baby quarter horses this year. And we're going to probably have one day where it's going to seem like a doubleheader. And, you know, that's going to come up in March. But looking forward to all of it. It's been a remarkably successful year. The horses have been safe. The riders have been safe. We've had no incidences. I mean, we've got to get applause from the rest of the nation and how great our racing surface is. We don't spend enough time talking about that, but that is so integral to the lifespan of a racetrack. And our man here at Sunland that Dustin has hired done a fabulous job. And maybe we'll talk about that more, you know, the next time.
Yep.
Because it's what keeps the sport going.
I look forward to it. Hey, in the meantime,
thank you, Steve.
Terrific wrap up. And Eric, we'll do it again with you next week back here on Track.
Appreciate it, pal. Thank you, Steve.